I'll take this off so I'm not muted to the folks here in the room, but to everybody on Zoom, thank you for joining us. Thank you for your interest in what we're very excited about in terms of Family Promise going forward. The great news that to share, as I was just sharing with Alan here just briefly, maybe some of you heard, Glendora House is working exceptionally well right now. Thank you to all the volunteers who are making that happen. Everything from supplies coming to the building for the families to the food program. It's all working out exceptionally well. So we are constantly full. We ended 2021 with having served 44 families, which is a record for Family Promise. And we believe we'll be on track for somewhere between 60 and 65 families for 2022. So if everything continues to go as it is, and we've been able to deal with COVID as that's come along. We have had some families that have had some exposure, but what's nice with the setup at Glendora House, they can isolate in their apartment, and that's worked out really well for us. So with that, I'm going to jump into explanation of where we're going with our new plan. If you might remember, some of you, that our last 5-year plan, the board challenged the program and the staff to serve more families, which we've been able to do now because of Glendora. We've gone from a low of 22 families a year up to 44 families that we're serving a year, which is just fantastic. Of the families that have been served, 80% of them have gone on to successful housing coming out of the program. And that number keeps etching up as we get more and more familiar with operating Glendora. So it's going well. But what I'm excited to share with you tonight is, let me back up just a second, just a housekeeping issue. You all probably know that we're not doing the rotation model anymore with the program. We're staying with the static site, which is Glendora. But the good news there is we've gone from serving 4 families at a time to serving 10 families at a time, which is helping our numbers. And as I said, the volunteers have just been beyond amazing in making that work. So again, thank you. So as we sat and looked at what our next 5-year plan was going to be, we were very concerned about that initial mandate, serving more families. How can we do that? So what I'm going to share with you tonight is the new plan, the new 5-year plan. It's called Survive to Thrive, Destination Home Ownership. That's the key to this whole new plan. We've been frustrated all along for many years as families come through the program. You know, they come to us homeless, they're in a state of despair, and it's pretty bleak for them. In a short period of time, we're able to get them back on track and into a positive, sustainable future. But the problem has always been for us, the frustration has always been, in that short period of time that they're with us, we're able to get them pretty solid going forward. But none of our families, none of them would ever qualify for a conventional loan to be able to purchase a home. That's just not something that is in their availability because of what they've been through. No bank will do that. So we spent a lot of, well, probably most of 2021 trying to figure out, as we developed the plan, what would work. So what Survive to Thrive is we've taken our mission now, and there's 3 parts to the mission. The first mission is the immediate piece, which is what we do and have been doing all these 18 years. We get the family in from emergency and get them to a state of stability and sustainability going forward. So that part doesn't change. The new parts are the intermediate phase, which is where we'll take our families from shelter to renting a home provided by Family Promise. And then the permanent phase, which is the 3rd phase, if those families are still strong and they stay on target, we can move them to being able to purchase a home that we already have or a program or a home that we can make available to them. How are we going to do that? I don't know if all of you are aware, but Summit County, like many counties in Ohio, has what's called a land bank, land reutilization board. It's the purview of that land bank to be able to take foreclosed property in the county and make it productive again. Get people living in those homes, so there's residential property tax, getting those commercial properties back up to speed with employees in them. We're not dealing with the commercial side. We're sticking with the residential side. So the land bank has homes that have gone into foreclosure, and they're all in various states of condition. Some of them are pretty nice. Some of them are, I'll call them Glendora-esque. When we started with Glendora, the land bank takes those properties and they apply a formula to those properties. If it falls underneath the scoring medium, the houses are raised, and the property then is made available to adjacent property owners to purchase. Not dealing with that. If it meets the threshold or higher, the house remains available. It's put on their list of available homes, and they're auctioned off. They're auctioned off to nonprofits, for-profits, and individuals. An individual homeowner gets first dib on the bid. Nonprofits get the second bite at the apple, and then private businesses wanting to rent and as a commercial property, commercial rentals, they can bid on it. These homes sell for $7,500. The highest one we've seen is $10,000. The homes need, on average, according to the land bank, $30,000 worth of renovations. Make sure all the mechanicals are working appropriately, the roof is sound, the home is warm, safe, and dry, and meets building codes. So if you think about this, we can purchase a home for $7,500. We put $30,000 into it. So now you've got a home investment, a home that's valued now at about $37,500. And we can make that house available then to the families in our program. Or what we'll do in the intermediate phase is Family Promise will purchase those homes, we'll renovate them, and then our families move from immediate or emergency to an intermediate phase where they are paying rent and utilities for those houses, but we have wraparound services that assist them, because the ultimate goal is to get them from that stage now to being able to purchase the home. The home will be purchased via a land contract. There's no bank notes, there's no debt in this program, and here's how we can do it. There are several funding sources that could be made available to purchase and renovate the homes. The first program is, and I'm going to beat my chest a little bit on this because I'm personally very proud of this. Summit County now has an affordable housing trust fund. We didn't have one before. The reason I'm proud of that is because I convened the people to make that happen around my kitchen table at my home. We spent about 1.5 years developing this fund, which now is housed in the Western Reserve Fund of the Finance Authority for the county. That fund now has $1 million in it. We have a commitment for an additional $2 million into that fund from the IFF. That's a capital group. And those dollars in that fund are for the purpose of getting affordable housing here in Summit County. It's available to nonprofits like us, to for-profits, and developers, commercial developers. The main purpose is, like, for example, we're going to go to them for a grant to buy some houses. They'll grant us the money to purchase and renovate the house. No bank, no loans, they're grants. And that will be one way that we can purchase these homes. Another activity or another funding source is what's called a project-based voucher that comes through HUD. It's assigned to the house. So let's, for the example, 123 South Main Street, we buy that. That house gets a voucher from HUD. It's worth $1,000 a month. The families that come out of emergency shelter into the rental will begin paying rent on that house. So let's say their income formula works out and they can afford $500 a month of the rent. The project voucher pays the remaining 500. So every home generates $1,000 a month. There's no mortgage to pay off because the house was purchased via a grant. There's no rehab loan to pay off because it's been paid for through grant funding. No banks. The other resource that on those project-based vouchers, I absolutely fell out of my chair when I read this, but when we get an address assigned a project-based voucher, that voucher stays with that address. Families can come and go in the house, doesn't matter. The $1,000 a month stays with that address. Those are good for 20 years. The only way we lose that funding is if we screw up. Don't take care of the house, the roof's got a leak, we don't maintain the property. That's not going to happen. We will continue to keep the property warm, safe, and dry and up to code. Another funding source for us is, for any of you who are familiar with the banking community, banks by law have to participate in Community Reinvestment Act dollars. Those are dollars that go back into the community as part of their responsibility for compliance with the federal banking rules. We're right in their wheelhouse because affordable housing is a very large part of what the Community Reinvestment Acts are targeted for. Jim Strang's son, Matt, Jim on the board, just retired the end of the year as chairman of the board, but Matt is the vice president of his bank's community compliance. Matt has shared with us the road to be able to make these funds available to the program. We'll go to those community resource specialists in the banks, and we'll ask them for funding for purchasing and renovating the houses. What Matt has also done for us is, I never knew this existed, but there is an association of community reinvestment specialists within banks. It's the Northeast Ohio Association of Community Reinvestment Professionals. They've invited us to their February board meeting because they like this concept. We'll present, it's every single bank from Huntington right down to Mr. Community Bank on the corner. They'll be present in this meeting. We will share with them Survive to Thrive, Destination Homeownership. And hopefully when we walk out of that meeting, we'll get commitments from banks to commit CRA dollars to our program, because it helps them meet their compliance requirements, and it certainly helps us. So it's a win-win both ways. The other area that's always open to us are the foundations for grants. I'm very pleased to share with you that over the years, and because of the great work that our volunteers have done to give Family Promise a solid name in the community, John Patoris and John Garofalo from Akron Community Foundation have invited Family Promise to the February presentation of fund holders within the Akron Community Foundation. Once a quarter, they invite a nonprofit to come in, share your story with these funders. And the idea is then, or the hope is, that at some point shortly after that, you get funds that want to help you with your mission financially. So we'll be in front of those folks in February. We'll be in front of the CRA folks in February. Friday at 2 o'clock, I'm sitting down with the GAR Foundation. They're very excited about this concept because it's self-sustaining and it's a highly collaborative program, which they push all the time. And here's where the collaboration comes in. And we are off the chart excited about this, you guys. To take a family out of the emergency phase, because you all know most of the families that we serve, all their lives, all they've ever done is they've paid rent. They've never owned a home. No one in their family has owned a home. So we take them from the emergency phase to the intermediate phase, and we can't just say, okay, pay the rent, here's a key, and expect them to be successful. We want to position them for success going forward. So we Family Promise, purchased the homes. What we've done is we've created a wholly owned subsidiary of Family Promise. It's called Family Promise Welcome Home, LLC. That LLC protects Family Promise from the activities that would happen under the LLC. If someone were to sue us, that's where they would go versus us. Now, I say that with the premise that I can sue Sue because she has a bird on her computer and I don't like that. Anybody can sue anybody. But creating this LLC creates the legal structure to allow us to do what we're doing. We sought legal counsel from Retzel and Andrus. They built this whole limited liability corporation for us. They did the whole tax review to make sure we didn't run afoul of our federal nonprofit status, which we do not. And they also have been working with us to create the operating agreement between the LLC and Family Promise and the management agreement between the two. Very important structure. The books of the LLC will be totally separate, total separate checking account. They will not intermix with Family Promise that you're all familiar with right now. So all of that structure is set up. We will then purchase the home from the land bank. We're helping the land bank meet their mission because their mission is get these homes productive again. We're mutual mission accomplished. The second thing is Truly Reaching You. That is an organization, a nonprofit organization whose mission is to help people re-entering society from incarceration to learn the trades, carpentry, plumbing, electric, so that they have a chance at a solid life going forward. If you've been through Glendora House, 85% of the work that was performed at Glendora, the restoration work, not the mechanicals, but the restoration work was done by Truly Reaching You. They did a great job. So they will be the contractor of record that we buy 123 South Main Street, goes in, and they renovate it and get it up to code, up to speed. What's nice about buying the homes from the land bank is they give us a punch list on every single house, and it will tell us exactly what needs to be done to that house. So we can take that punch list, sit down with and we can build a renovation budget and be pretty darn close on that renovation budget. So we help meet their mission. Again, a mutual mission accomplished. There's an organization in Akron, many of you have probably heard of it, EANDC for short, East Akron Neighborhood Development Corporation. We've partnered with them. They have HUD housing counselors on staff. Our families will go through that housing counseling program via EANDC. We reached out to Rochelle Sibio from Habitat for Humanity because we wanted to make sure we weren't running a dual mission here. I wouldn't want to do that to any nonprofit in the community. Rochelle was so excited about this. She said, Jeff, you're not running a competition against us. We don't renovate houses. We build houses. She said, here's what we do. We take all of your families that come through and that are in your intermediate phase, and we put them through our 8-week home maintenance training program. So again, many of these folks have never owned a home. Something broke, they called the landlord. Well, this training program helps families learn, what do you do when the faucet leaks? How do you change that furnace filter? Things that we all take for granted because we're homeowners and we just do that. These folks will have a chance to learn that over an 8-week course. My wife, Cindy, said, I have to go audit that course so I can learn how to do some of those things and not create the problems that I create when I try and fix something. So it'll be a mutual for me going through that program. But again, that's a mutual mission accomplished for Habitat, because part of their mission is to get folks solid in terms of home ownership. In addition to that, all the families have to stay in the financial literacy program that we provide in the immediate phase. They'll go through the financial literacy center. We'll work with them constantly on their budgets, make sure that they're solid, make sure that they're on track with their rent going forward. But we also, just at the end of last year, through Family Promise National. It's called the HUMI grant, HUMI. HUMI stands for Help Us Move In. And what that does is it gives us, Family Promise, $40,000 so that we can assist our families once they've graduated into sustainable housing to keep them solid. If the car breaks, we can repair the car from these funds so they don't lose their transportation. If they're going to be short on the rent for the coming month, we can help them bridge that. That's real important because there are care dollars still out there that we could, if the families start going that way, we can catch them before it becomes a disaster for them. And then they qualify for the CARES funding for up to 15 months. So we can keep them very, very strong and keep working with them to get them ultimately on their own in that process. So that's a great resource for us that we did not have before. And then the last piece there is the families would then move from, once they've gone through all that and we have them a couple years and we know they're strong, they're renting from us, from our fleet of homes that we have that they rent from. Then if they like the home they're renting and they want to purchase that home, we'll take them to a land contract where they can, based on their income, buy that home. And you're talking about a home probably $50,000 or less. They can afford that. They can't afford a $100,000, $150,000, $200,000, $300,000 home, but they will own that home at the end of the land contract. I've heard horror stories about land contracts. So what we're doing to address that up front before the first one is signed, we meet tomorrow afternoon with the folks from the Fair Housing Advocate Association. They're going to help us draft those land contracts because I want Family Promises land contract to be as clear as that window. I don't want families to be misled in any way. I want them to know exactly how that will work, and that at the end of a 5-year, 6-year, 7-year period, we will hand them not only the keys to the house, but the deed. Now they own a home. The family can become financially sound now because they have that asset. If they want to use that home to fund college tuition for their children, have at it. It's your home. Do what you want. If they want to start a family business and use that as collateral for a business loan, now they can do that because they have a resource. If they want to paint the kitchen purple with pink polka dots, go on to Sherwin-Williams and do that. It's yours. Do what you want to do with it. But you guys, the piece of this that is absolutely spot on, everybody that we've talked to about this program understands the importance of home ownership for our families, because this is the only road that gets them to that opportunity. I have said in presentations all along, our families coming out of our program to get to a home, there's a mountain in front of them. They can't get over that mountain. What Survive to Thrive does is it levels the mountain to a prairie, and it's a whole lot easier to cross a prairie than it is to climb a mountain. We can get those families where they need to be at the end of this program. Here's the other part that we're adding into it because we have these resources. Many of you know that we have an endowment for Family Promise. It's grown slowly because most of our effort has been, how do we operate the program month to month? That's been the focus of the resources coming in. But if we have this resource in front of us, my goal is to purchase some of the homes and keep them as rental homes under the project-based voucher. Once we have a fleet of homes and it's working, think about that. That's $1,000 a month coming to that house. If I can get up to a point where and it'll take a couple years to get there, but if I can set aside 10 homes, the $1,000 a month that comes in as revenue off of that home goes right into the endowment. That's $10,000 a month we can put into the endowment, $120,000 a year we can put in the endowment. Now our endowment can grow, because my main reason for starting that endowment was to get Family Promise to a point that we're self-sustaining ourselves in perpetuity. Don't have to worry about fundraisers and all of those things, but we can make sure we take care of ourselves long into the future. That to me is a very important part of this program to be able to set up. So in summation, we're three parts now. Immediate, the families coming into the program from an emergency state. We work with them like we normally do. When they come through the program and the case managers tell us, Jeff, these families can do it. They're financially sound. They've been through everything. They're employed. All of their issues are addressed. Let's put them in one of our homes to start the rent, again, on a rental basis. Then again, we continue to work with them, make sure that they're strong budgetarily and all things are working for them as a family. And then if they choose that house or another house that may come online with the land bank, we'll get them in that house under a land contract. Why the land contract? Because that's flexible for us. Again, remember, no bank loans, right? So if we have a family that's with us, say their land contract is a 6-year contract, something happens to them in year 3, a medical issue where the breadwinner is going to be off for a couple of months, can't pay the rent. Okay, we take those couple of months, we put it on the end of the land contract, so they don't lose that 3 years of equity that they've paid into that house. We can be flexible that way. Bank's not going to do that, but we can do that through that document. So this gives us an enormous amount of flexibility. It gives us an opportunity to make families who have come through Family Promise ultimately independent and sustainable. We went to the national office to make sure that we didn't run afoul of our charter with the national organization by doing this. Klaus Ellers, who is the CEO of Family Promise National, was so excited about this program. I believe that's why we got the HUME grant. But in addition to that, we're keeping them abreast of everything that we're doing going forward, because they feel this might be a program for any of the Family Promise affiliates nationwide whose communities have land banks and have those houses available. They could do the same thing in their community. So we're excited about that. And the last group, we haven't officially done anything yet, but this is on the horizon. The Cleveland Clinic, Akron General Hospital came to us. They heard what we're doing. Sue Hobson, who's their community coordinator, said to us that there's a real opportunity here for the work that they're trying to do. The hospital picked 2 zip codes around their campus that they're trying to strengthen the families in. Well babies programs, infant mortality programs, that kind of a thing. So as we were talking, one of the things that it has developed that's out there is that there's a big labor crisis, as we all know, all across different disciplines, but for STNAs and early entry healthcare providers. It's a low-paying job. It's a difficult job. And there's a heavy push on the part of healthcare providers now to come up with programs that can entice folks to come in to be trained as STNAs, but keep them so that they go from STNA up to an RN and beyond in the health industry. Well, if this program is set up the way it is, what if the hospital partners with us? They buy the house, they gift us the money to renovate it, and Jim, you want to be an STNA healthcare provider? Great. As part of your commitment to do that, we'll get you educated, and at the end of the process, you'll own a home. We'll make a home available to the workforce that's coming out of that process. Our families, our folks that are in the program, can be targeted to get those positions with the hospital. So not only are we looking at home ownership for financial stability for the families, but it can be a workforce development program as well. But we've got to prove ourselves first. And that starts tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning. We're going and looking at 3 homes off of the list from the land bank. Hopefully we'll pick one of them to get started. And then we'll have you all come and take a look at it so you can see what it looks like before we start. And as middle of the road, we'll let you see it. And then at the end, come on and take a look at it. But I'll never forget when we did Glendora, started Glendora, and folks came in to see that building. They looked at me like I'd lost my mind, because that building was horrendous. But you guys know, because a lot of you volunteered and helped and raised funds and did all kinds of good things. It turned out great. It turned out great because we put together a coalition of community partners that made it happen. And that's what's happening with this program. So we are super excited to get it started. We wanted to come out and share it with you directly. If anybody has any questions about the program, we'll open the floor up and the folks online to any potential questions. But we're gonna, with the newsletter, we're gonna be rolling out pieces and parts of this as it develops to try and keep you as up to date as we can going through this. It'll be great, a great way to have some interaction as we go forward. But what I want to say before we open up for questions is, I want you to think hard about where we are as an organization, because this would not have happened if it weren't for all of you and all of you on the screen and all the volunteers that are out there. Because Family Promise's reputation in the community now, among these organizations and among elected officials and among healthcare officials and all those folks, is exponentially high. And it's because they see that we perform what we say we're going to do, but more importantly, we focus on the family. Because as you know, we've all been through this COVID noise, and there's an awful lot of anxiety out there. There's a lot of isolation out there. And for an organization like ours that kept on going through COVID couldn't take us out. That says a lot for who all of you are and how fantastic you've been for this mission. So with that, Bill, got a question?
So this is a paradigm shift.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We're changing the whole model of not bringing the folks into the church.
Right.
So how do you see our role in this model that you're
Yes.
presenting?
Yeah. The question was, for those of you on the Zoom, if you didn't hear it, Bill asked, this is a paradigm shift for the program. How do we see all of the volunteers being a part of this going forward? Well, first and foremost, they've already been active with the food programs and the programs that are at Glendora. The volunteers have been great on that. But as we do this part of it, the houses, it could be anything that you'd be willing to participate in. Everything from maybe you buy a case of water and bring it to the house for people to drink when they're renovating, all the way up to if you want to sponsor a house as a group, you can do that. Come and paint. We're going to need to, on the houses, we're going to need to furnish them. Maybe you can make us aware of some furnishings that folks want to get rid of that could be put in these houses. We can do that. There's a whole host of things that can happen for volunteers and folks to be involved in. But as it relates to Glendora, Bill, the volunteers have just nailed it. It's been really, really good. Mm-hmm. That's if you want to. Again, that's strictly up to you, because we're still doing Family Promise as we always did at Glendora. But if you guys decide, hey, maybe as a community project, the church wants to engage in one of the houses at whatever level you want, that's great. If mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. The benefit. Yep. The question was families as they're in the rentals, so that the properties aren't destroyed. What we'll do, Bill, we're going to use the same model we use for Glendora. The case managers will do weekly inspections at the house. We'll have a maintenance schedule at the house. Tri will set up a maintenance program where after so many months they go in, they touch up any paint that has to be touched up, or they, the furnace will get an annual inspection. But I'm glad you asked that question, because part of what we'll do for each house is a homeowner's insurance policy to protect against if the furnace goes out. The policy covers the new furnace. Those kinds of things that'll be built into the program as well. But you're exactly right. The good news, though, in that the case managers will know where the family is before we even offer a house to a family. So we'll have to make sure that they're financially stable, they're employed, all those things, so that we create a road for success for them versus failure. So we'll have those checks and balances in place. We're going to have to crawl before we run. I skipped the walk, if you caught that. We're going to crawl before we run with our first house, get it done, see what all issues happened as a result of that, and then we'll continue then to go on from there with multiple homes. I would like to, by the end of 22, have at least 2 online, maybe 3. But what we're going to face going forward is, the labor shortage. A lot of contractors are having issues with getting people to do work. So that's going to be a challenge for us with the contractors that are going to be working with us on the renovations of the home. So that's going to be a little up and down, I'm sure. Some of the other things that we'll be watching, appliances. Has anybody tried to buy an appliance in the last year or so? My gosh, sometimes it's 6-8 months before you can get an appliance. So we'll have to be kind of watching that too as we go forward. So, Alan, you had a question?
Couple things. First of all, I'm blown away. That's you have reinvented the house, which is outstanding. Do you foresee a second static site being developed here to increase your reach? Another Glendora house, if you will.
The question was, do we anticipate another Glendora type building going forward? The answer to that is always yes, if it's the right opportunity. We learned a lot with Glendora. I think with any project that we do going forward, we'll try to find one in a little bit better shape than Glendora was. But no, that's always on the table if that happens. Unfortunately, there are a lot of nonprofits that are struggling because of COVID and what it's done to them, either their funding stream or their volunteer stream or whatever. And I'm hearing here and there closing of things. Salvation Army has a building called Booth Manor, and early 2021 they were looking to give it to somebody, but their board kind of regathered and they were able to renovate it, and they're using it again. So that's good. But yeah, we'll always be looking so we can serve more families. All 12 of them that were the hosts are still involved. We had 3 of them that said they could no longer do the rotation, but they are still with us. They're volunteering, providing food, providing volunteers if we need them. So all of our hosts are still with us, as are many of our support churches. So yeah.
Will the families have to put work or money into the house?
The question was, will the families have to put work or money into the house? We're going to engage them wherever we can so they can have some sweat equity at the point that they decide to buy a house. In the intermediate phase, if there's interest, we'll certainly let them volunteer some time if they'd like, but that would be more for the permanent phase than the intermediate.
Also, can past families sent to the program be qualified to do this?
Yeah, the question was, can past families that were in the program be qualified? Yes. Another thing was, if we get this up and running and we have the multiple units we think about, there are other agencies, Access, Battered Women's Shelter. If there are folks from there that qualify, yes, they can participate. And we are not geographically bound by Summit County. We can do, if there's an opportunity in Portage County, Medina County, we can do that. But we have to do that in a plan. So,
Sandy said, I love the collaboration that Jeff is describing with students in general.
mhm,
It's obvious that he's brought to some council to benefit family promises in a really good way. He has a good understanding of all that's happening in Summit County and good connection.
mhm.
That's all.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that, Sandy, too. I appreciate that. I have pushed the envelope with the elected folks that I work with on council. But what I have to say about all of them is they love this mission and it's helping families. So it's not a hard push. It really isn't.
I have one more question. How will you handle the increased work level with your current staff?
Thank you. Increased staff needs. We know starting out, we're going to need relatively soon a project manager, someone who can be with the house every day, with the contractors every day, and also monitoring Glendora House too for maintenance issues and needs. So we know we'll be bringing on a project manager, and then as we move through it, we'll probably need to bring on another case manager or so. But that's the foreseeable future, 2 possible new additional hires, because all of the other folks I mentioned, one of the main reasons we did those collaborations is so that Family Prom, or now Welcome Home LLC, didn't have to ramp up and spend money bringing those folks in. We're doing it via contract, so we don't have to have the additional employees. So we're handling it that way to keep a lot of this going. That's all I have. Okay, great. Alan?
Involve the board for students with a goal.
Mhm.
And, so we provide just requests for grants and such. One thing that we've heard from JR, Acting Community Foundations, also is in terms of the importance of developing collaboration between nonprofits.
Mhm.
We talked about the potential overlap, something that Family Promise might offer, which is Habitat. But there are other organizations out there which I think if they work together with you could benefit both organizations. Little things like Summit Lake Build Corps, not too familiar with them. but
I've heard of them. Yeah.
They're basically involved with teaching high school kids how to develop skills that relate to the crafts,
Mhm.
the trades.
Mhm. Alan, send them to us, or give them my name. I'd be happy to talk with them, because any chance we get with this program that we can offer training or a learning experience, let's do it. Why not?
It's a different approach to
Yeah.
pride, if you will.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
a much younger version of that.
Yeah.
We've talked about the collaboration with the churches. Our church is heavily involved with ASP.
Mhm.
Focus there is on warmer, drier, safer.
Yeah.
Sound familiar?
Yes.
And one of the things that we've struggled with over the years is how can we take all the goodwill and the ramped up interest in terms of helping others to come to basically the result of that week at ASP. How can we bring it back to our homes?
Mhm.
Active.
Mhm.
And so this might be another thing where we could work,
Yeah.
especially if you have trouble finding contractors. Our work crews, and I'm sure this is true with other churches, would be
Mhm.
quite confident in terms of a variety of different things.
That would be great.
So if there are ways to maybe involve them,
Mhm.
be helpful as well.
Yeah. The theme here is, if any organization, for you folks on Zoom or here in the room, like Alan was saying, if you have programs that do that, where there's opportunities to bring people together and they can learn a little bit, let's get together. Let's communicate that, because the one thing that will be different about this approach versus a building like Glendora is their individual homes. So it's not as intense as that building was. Because that building, we had to, if you saw it before, we had to put in a whole new heating system, which meant all new lines all the way through the building, all new electric through the building, plumbing through the building. So that was pretty intense, just simply because you had multiple floors with walls this thick. We're talking about homes. So, what's great about that, as we bring on a home, we can sign an organization. Okay, 123 South Main Street, that's your house, and We could have multiple groups working on it and then have a celebration at the end and show off what they did. But be able to give people an opportunity to learn, because especially if it's young people, someday they're going to be homeowners. Well, let's bring them in now and let them see, what do you do when a furnace needs to be replaced or a sink needs to be fixed? There's all kinds of things that we can do. But that's going to be as we roll down the road. We're excited about the opportunities. Yeah, Bill.
So, two questions. What's the amount of the endowment and debt foundation? And number two is, how do people contribute to family promise?
Mhm.
What's the best way for them if they want to contribute dollars to family promise?
Okay. Great. The question was, first, how much is in the endowment? We're a little over $32,000 right now in the endowment. And the other question was, if you want to donate to Family Promise, how do you do that? The best way is to go to our website now. We have that working. We have a working, usable website now. We're very excited about that. It'll go right to Pauline Egan, and she'll take it from there and make it happen. So, and I have to say too, while I've got a break here, I hope you guys know what a great staff there is at Family Promise. Pauline, Erica, our new case manager, Michelle Greer. I have no employee issues at all. Part of well, I take that back. I have one. How do I slow them down sometimes? Because I think I go pretty quickly. They can run circles around me. We're just blessed to have a good, solid team there. So it helps a lot, believe me. Helen.
Pauline and Erica have been trying to develop this approach in terms of developing some type of mentors.
Mm-hmm.
This was back in your older
Mhm.
address.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess some discussions with some different
Right.
individuals in terms of how to do that. Is
Mhm.
that effort continuing on? Or is it-
We hope to bring it back. It stopped because of COVID. The question was about the mentoring program that Erica was doing early on. It came to a halt because of COVID. Folks didn't want to get together. But yeah, oh no, that'll be back. And Jim's mantra too has been, he's dead spot on. There's a lot of mentoring that will take place in this program for the families going forward. The financial literacy, the housing counseling, home maintenance, just constant mentoring at all phases going through. We won't leave them stranded.
Would also be maybe some guidance with regard to parenting. We had one gentleman we were working with
Mhm.
under the program who's had an autistic child.
It was, yes,
This was the one that basically wore a diaper.
yes,
Well, remember that?
yes.
And that was, I guess, an area where I'm not sure he would have been, probably would not have been receptive.
Mhm.
Maybe some type of mentoring or some type of parental training.
Yes.
Something along those lines.
Yeah. Yeah, that's on the list. And also on the list is family and child and family guidance to be able to get counseling for different issues. The one thing is heartbreaking, and you guys probably have seen this too, is the rate of suicide right now because of everything we've gone through is just off the chart. It's heartbreaking. So we want to make sure that we have some kind of a safe landing there to the degree that we can make those programs available to the families. Mental health is a big issue right now. Big issue. So, Sue.
What's the Glendora House address?
Glendora House is 1100 Copley Road in Akron. It's right at the corner of Copley Road and Glendora. If you're familiar with Buchtel High School or Community Learning Center, Glendora is the road that runs immediately west of their campus. And also anybody, if you ever want to come and see Glendora, give us a call. We love to have people come through and see the building, and we'll do that with the houses too. I'd love to be able to have you all see the houses as we progress. We want it to be as open as we can. So
going towards a formal mansion. So if you're not seeing it, it's, and again, just you can imagine just the beauty of that building must have been in its heyday.
It was probably spectacular.
It was, and it's,
Yep.
but now it's been given a whole new life and purpose.
Yep.
Thanks to you and all about you.
Yep, yep. Thank you. Okay, Sue, we good?
Okay, yeah.
Okay,
good.
thanks everybody on the Zoom.
Thank you, Jeff. This
You're
was an
welcome.
awesome program.
Thank you.
Very exciting about it.